Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Sasso insecticide spray and coil.
Hello, good evening. Welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live from our news about Desawe Kanda, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Ocansey. Tonight, battle lines drawn as NPP and NDC begin in 19 polling stations. The campaigning and the bid to win the Ablekuma North seat. We have the latest for you. The Electoral Commission has officially declared their decision on what the next phase would be. Also, tonight, a 24-hour economy outdoored by government, more jobs, increased productivity, and export of products from Ghana. We have details, plus we'll hear from the views of experts who have been analyzing the details of this particular policy. Stay with us. Changes in price of petroleum products at the pumps, a reduction in price of petrol, but diesel has seen an increase in price, almost the same margin of the decrease in the petrol prices. We'll try to make sense of what's happening today at the beginning of this first pricing window in the month of July. It's a lot to look out for tonight. As always, you're an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Let's get talking. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
The National Democratic Congress, NDC, in the Ablekuma North constituency has intensified its campaign efforts to mobilize support for its parliamentary candidates ahead of the crucial rerun on July 11. This follows an announcement earlier today by the Electoral Commission confirming a rerun of polls in 19 polling stations. Supporters of the party say the rerun presents a chance to right the wrongs of the past.
The margin that I'm telling you that we people, the margin is huge. Now they are dragging with small margin. That tells you that there is no stronghold in Ablekuma North now. And I'm saying it again. From this time, we are going to win this seat.
The acting Chief Justice Paul Bafoboni has called on lawyers to embrace reforms in the electronic justice system to enable them adapt to the growing demand of technology. Justice Yaa Jacobo, delivering the speech on behalf of the acting Chief Justice at the Greater Accra Bar Conference, also indicated that there was the need for lawyers to be entrepreneurial to develop client-based solutions.
Electronic case tracking and virtual hearings. These efforts are intended not only to improve administrative efficiency, but also to enhance transparency, reduce delays, and ultimately improve access to justice for all. However, technology can only be as effective as the people who use it.
Government has launched the 24-hour economy program with the aim of transforming the country's economic landscape. This ambitious initiative is projected to cost $4 billion, with the government committing $300 to $400 million as seed funding.
We ship cocoa, gold, timber, and oil abroad, only to repurchase them as chocolates, jewelry, furniture, and fuel at a far greater cost. This model does not serve our people. It has never served our people. It generates foreign jobs, it fuels foreign economies, and funds foreign healthcare and education systems. While our youth remain unemployed, our industries stagnate and our imports balloon.
Ministry for Energy and Green Transition, John Jinapor, has stated that a legislative instrument is being worked on to severely punish persons who engage in illegal electricity connections. He told Parliament on Wednesday that it has become necessary to prosecute offenders who tamper with power. Mr. Jinapor has also directed ECG to operate a single account that can be monitored by all relevant agencies.
Ordinarily, it's ECG that has the mandate to install meters, and so we are working on an LI to be submitted to Parliament so that those who otherwise own such meters, the penalty and the penal measures will be quite severe to serve as a deterrent. And so we've been arresting people, we've been prosecuting them. Mr. Speaker, let me also use this opportunity to make a passionate and humble appeal to Ghanaians that if we don't work with these utilities to ensure that we are able to recover the revenues, we're going to have a major challenge providing power.
The Ghana Gold Board and National Security have busted 10 Chinese nationals at Asenkrugwa in the Western region for gold smuggling. Chief Executive Officer of the Gold Board, Sami Jenfi, says the seized gold worth 1.3 kilograms cost 1.4 million Ghana cedis. He says the Chinese will not be deported, but will be arraigned and face prosecution.
Praying the court to remand them into custody for further investigations. And it is our hope that we'll get a favorable outcome. And we are very clear in our minds that we will be prosecuting them. And we are hopeful that the law will take its course and we will secure conviction for them to be jailed. And the offense attracts an imprisonment term of a minimum of 5 years and a maximum of 10 years.
There's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live on 3FM 92.7. Also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, as always, probably brought to you by Flamingo Paint, Simply Superior, and also Sasso Insecticide Spray and Coil, Kumtumtum Preko. Coming up next here on Ghana Tonight. It's one that has been on our radar here on your Election Command Center for quite a while. This is the only constituency with no representation in this 9th Parliament. They don't have an MP. Battle lines drawn now as the NPP and the NDC begin campaign in 19 polling stations in a bid to win the Ablekuma North seat. We'll tell you why. This is as a result of the earlier communication today from the Electoral Commission. The opposition NPP and the governing NDC are lacing their boots to battle it out in 19 polling stations as they seek to grab the Ablekuma North seat. And many who say that in terms of power dynamics and representation in this 9th Parliament, it's not going to make much of a difference because the NDC still has super majority. But then again, there remains only this outstanding seat from the last year's elections, parliamentary elections in Ablekuma North constituency. The AC has finally decided to rerun the elections in these polling stations, 19 of them, in a bid to get some closure to this Ablekuma North debacle. More on this, but I'm going to do a quick walkthrough and a recall of exactly how things have played out over the period. Because the Electoral Commission had been consistent. Just about 2 weeks ago, Dr. Bosman Asare was in Parliament. He was asked whether a rerun was an option on the table. He ruled out this option of a rerun. So it begs the question as to what exactly the Electoral Commission took into consideration in now deciding that 19 polling stations would have a rerun of the elections. But there was actually a declaration of a winner in this Ablekuma North constituency on the 9th of December 2024. But the Electoral Commission said that declaration was done under duress. This was a Rabin Albin who was declared a winner at the time. Take a look at this.
In polling stations and NPP had 27,000 170. NPP had 28,151. On that note, I declare Eura Abna as the MP selected.
So there was this declaration, but the Electoral Commission 2 days later addressed the press, indicated that that declaration you just saw was done under duress, and that their officer there, the returning officer at the constituency, was forced to declare the NDC candidate there, Erabra Obin, as the MP-elect. So they annulled this declaration. And then Naneke Frios, the NPP candidate, has been on the hills as well, the former member of parliament for that matter. And it's one thing that we've been looking at how things have evolved over time. But let's chronicle the specific instances in this Ablekuma North constituency debacle. Joseph Akable, so legal affairs correspondent, has been looking into it quite closely. Joseph, it's good to have you, as always.
Always good to be here.
This matter found its way into court, is it not?
Yes.
Let's backtrack a bit.
I mean, so we all know that first and foremost, the election took place on December 7th, like many other parts of the country as well. The only difference being that after the close of polls, there was no winner that had been declared. In fact, if we move a bit further on, quite shortly, we are going to show you how things have panned out by way of that particular process. But in terms of after the election took place, there was no winner in that particular area, like I did indicate. Shortly afterwards, the decision was taken by the Electoral Commission in terms of who to declare as the winner. So initially on December 10, they declared Erabra Obing as the winner of that particular election, the NDC's candidate. And you saw that on your screen with that declaration taking place now. Now, we know that on 20th December 2024, the EC nullified the results of the Ablekuma North election. The explanation the commission gave was to the effect that the officer, like you said, declared it under duress. And so for that reason, they decided that they were not satisfied with the results. They again made a point that they didn't think that the declaration was done with a full complement of the sheets that they needed to do that particular declaration. It's one that generated a lot of discussions, both on the side of the MPP and the NDC, both claiming that, well, as far as their own coalition is concerned, they had won that particular constituency. And so that became a heated dispute with the EC setting aside the declaration that had taken place. The question that remained was that, what would the EC do next? Will they try to collate the outstanding ones, the disputed ones, which it says that it was not part of the coalition, or will it do without it? And that is what became a heated issue, and the matter eventually ended up in court. So the constituency dispute litigated at the High Court and the Supreme Court as well. And we know that in terms of what transpired in these various places where this particular matter came up for discussions quite closely. First, at the High Court, there was a bit of a mandamus application. The question being asked was that, well, the AC was under a legal duty to perform a function, and so they should be required to perform that particular function. Eventually, the High Court ordered the EC to complete the collation on January 4, 2025. And in line with that, the EC had attempted, in fact, it was one of 9 constituencies. So they started collating for the other constituencies. And even before they could get there and conclude that, an aspect of the matter went over to the Supreme Court, questions being raised about whether the NDC was given a fair hearing or they were given an opportunity to be heard at the High Court. Eventually, the Supreme Court agreed with them on that level and said that, look, it was wrong that they proceeded without giving the NDC a hearing. And so that some of those declarations were set aside by the Supreme Court, meaning that the matter would now have to go back for the EC, back to the High Court, in fact, for the arguments to take place. Then afterwards, the issues raised again about the EC now going ahead after the High Court also giving the green light for the coalition to take place. So post January 4, 2025, multiple coalition attempts have taken place, but the EC have simply been unable to declare a winner.
And this is as a result of the chaotic scenes that characterize this attempt to recollect the results at this polling station. One of the major contentions of the NDC was that the Electoral Commission was relying on scanned pink sheets to collate in some 62 constituencies, that's polling stations where the violence took place and all of these pink sheets destroyed. Let's take a look at some of the chaotic scenes that characterize the previous attempts by the Electoral Commission to recollate some of the polling station results in Ablekuma North. Take a look.
Come and see this signature and this signature. Come and signature. Please, we want a dedicated signature. Media, come and look at the signature. Media. Look at the signature.
Some of them screenshots, pictures of the pictures. Yes, you can have about 7 leaflets. No, you can just take one. As the presiding officer, you can keep one. We have the original and then the carbonized copies.
The chaos never really ended. And that's why the Electoral Commission was never able to conclude that process of recollation in the Ablekuma North constituency. The last time we heard the Electoral Commission, they indicated they were waiting for some protection from the Ghana Police Service. The minority in Parliament also petitioned the IGP. And then the Deputy EC Chair was in Parliament, indicated that they're waiting for a roadmap from the Ghana Police Service.
In fact,
to provide for protection for them.
In fact, he had made a point that they've not completed their work, and until they complete their work, they cannot decide whether or not to not declare or to rerun or not to do anything. So at that point, it appeared that there was not a clarity on what to do now. But we are learning a bit more from their statements today. They made a point that when they had a meeting with the NDC and the NPP, the NDC took the view that it should be rerun in 37 of the polling stations because the EC had relied on scanned copies from the NPP to declare. But the NPP are taking the view that there were only 3 outstanding, which should be declared, and afterwards the results should be announced. So the 3 should be collated and the results announced. And so it was a disagreement between 3 and 37. But the EC says that after deliberation with the parties, they've decided to go ahead and now do it in terms of they were running 19 of those particular polling stations.
Joseph Akable, appreciate you for this. Now, one man who has sat through all of the meetings of the NDC in this Ablekuma North matter is the Deputy Director of IT and Elections for the NDC. Rashid Tanko Computer is also the acting CEO of GIFEC. He's joining us on Zoom right now. Good evening to you. Thank you for joining us. You understand you are in the United States attending to official business, but thank you for stepping out to talk to us tonight. I mean, this development from the Electoral Commission, or the communication from the Electoral Commission, that 19 of the polling stations out of the 37 that you wanted a rerun of the elections, does it come to you as some refreshing news, or you were still expecting that the 37 polling stations should have been rerun as you had earlier hoped?
Alfred, yes, let me say good evening over there in Ghana to your cherished viewers and listeners as well. This is good news for democracy. I mean, democracy is one thing that we have chosen for ourselves in Ghana, that we should be governed by rule of law and not somebody's whims and caprices. And so I am so happy with the outcome of the decision by the Electoral Commission to rerun 19 polling stations. Alfred, let me run you through some issue that came out about 2 weeks ago. We had a meeting with the Electoral Commission. I was part of the meeting with my colleague Mahdi and our council Edwiji. The MPP was led by their Director of Election, Evans, and a former MP. In that meeting, it came out that the 62 that we were following them up, that they should have a rerun for the 62 polling stations. 25 of them were not scanned copies. They were carbon copies being presented by the MPP then. So we were magnanimous at the meeting. We agreed that fine, since they were carbon copies and not scanned copies, we will accept them as being true reflection of the elections. So the 25 carbon copies results were added. So that reduced the margin to 37. Now the rest of the 37 were scanned copies. And then that was how we ended the 37. And that's why the MPP is not telling the general public. The NDC were magnanimous at that meeting and said, look, we want resolution to this Ablekuma North matter. And therefore, these 25, which were carbon copies, we will accept them. And we accepted them. And they added, so that's why it reduced to 37. Now, with these 37, which were scanned copies, we told them that, look, let's go for a rerun for the 37 because they are scanned copies. We cannot accept it. Then the MPP, they were still insisting that they wanted the 37 to be taken out and leave with only 3 so that the 3, they can be used to declare them as winners. That's what they were trying to do. And we said, how can we rely on your scanned copies?
I see.
Who accept that? And then so the Electoral Commission with the 2 parties involved, that is the NDC and MPP, we all agreed that, look, this is the position we have presented to you. Go into conclave.
Right.
You are the commissioners. Take a decision on it and report back to us. Then we'll look at it critically. Then before that, we realized that Dr. Bosman Asari was in Parliament reporting and talking about the issue when they hadn't gotten back to us. So we knew that whatever Dr. Bosman Asari was telling Parliament was not the true reflection of what transpired at the IPAC meeting that we held.
I see.
And he sat through it.
If you say it wasn't a true reflection, he had indicated, in fact, that he was asked a direct question as to whether a rerun of the elections in these contested polling stations is one that is going to be considered or is an option for the Electoral Commission at all. And he ruled that out 2 weeks ago, that the rerun was not an option. And 2 weeks on, we're hearing this position by the Electoral Commission. What could have changed? What could have changed?
That is, Alfred, that is where we as a political party, the NDC, we are surprised at the 10th of event when he went to Parliament and made such statement. Because that was not a true reflection of what happened at the IPAC meeting. In fact, we're all there. In fact, Madame Jean Mensa herself presided over the meeting. And where we accepted the 25 to be taken away from the 62 and reduce it to 37. And we said they should go and look at the 37 at conclave and report back to us. So we're going to have another meeting with them. Fortunately, the second meeting was held yesterday, and my colleague represented us. So when the meeting was held, it came out that out of the 37 that were still contesting, 18 of them, their presiding officers came and authenticated the 18 scanned copies and said, yes, it was true reflection. They actually had the results at their polling stations. And then our team, which was led by Mahdi, my colleague, and then Edwiji, counsel, our lawyer, accepted that fine. Since the presiding officers accepted and authenticated those 18 scanned copies, then it should be taken out. Leaving 19, the 19, nobody authenticated it. None. They were not authenticated. They were just fake scanned copies being brought by the MPP. So that's how the results came out, that they should go and have a rerun for the 19 areas to use to declare it. So why is our colleagues running away from this?
I see. So then how do you respond to those who are saying that this outcome is just Electoral Commission pandering to your demands, I mean, for a rerun? Because the NPP wasn't asking for a rerun. You were forceful about a rerun, and now the Electoral Commission is saying that is what they're going to go with.
Alfred, this is not the first time we've been saying that to resolve this Ablekuma North, we have to go for a rerun. for certain polling stations. That has been the issue is that anytime we have an election, there are two documents that we use, either the original pink sheet or the carbon copies. The carbon copies are given to the political parties. So if the EC doesn't have original pink sheets, we can come with the carbon copies. And then they will bring their officers to authenticate our carbon copies, whether it's a true reflection of what transpired at the polling stations. But the issue of Ablekuma North, these ones that we are talking about, in fact, the 37 were areas that they didn't even have carbon copies. Our colleagues don't have it. The EC doesn't have the original one. We, the NDC, we were very truthful to them that we don't have it. So in that case, if you don't have it, then you have to go for a rerun. This is not the first time. We did it at Akotia under Afarijan, Dr. Afarijan. It happened before. And we went and had a rerun for some polling stations to declare results. And so this is not the first time, Alfred. We have done it severally, and we have used it to resolve issues.
Quickly, before I let you go, already we've been to the constituency and engaging with some of your members. They say that the 19 polling stations, majority of them are described as strongholds of the MPP. And this constituency, mind you, has been won by the MPP comfortably over the years. It's a seat that the MPP has held since it was created. And so we've got a job on your hands, is it not? Because we understand there's some disagreement as well between the chairman of the party in the constituency and Irabuna Obin as we speak, your candidate. True?
Alfred, we are ready for the election come 11th. We are ready as a political party. As we speak now, I can tell you we are already in a drive gear in the constituency. Our team is already in the constituency as we speak now, doing the preparation work for next week elections. I'll be joining them pretty soon. We are going all out to make sure that the 19 polling stations, we want to win all the 19 polling stations. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama has done extremely well for the short period we have been in office. Extremely well.
Okay.
And Ghanaians will definitely vote for us. And so we are going to activate our new body cameras for the 19 polling stations. We are not going to relent. We will make sure that Madam Irabuna Open is elected as our MP for that constituency, and she will take her seat in Parliament after Friday. I'm assuring you, next Friday. We are moving into it. We are not leaving any stone unturned.
Okay.
The party leadership, everybody is going to put hands on deck to make sure that we win the seat.
And that's in the next 11 days. In fact, 9 days is a date to watch. It is July 11. This is the dates that has been communicated by the Electoral Commission for the rerun of these elections in the 19 polling stations. Rashid Tanko Computer, thank you for joining us.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful. Thank you.
He is the acting CEO of GIFEC and the Deputy Director in IT for Elections for the NDC, joining us from the United States on this matter. And this is your Election Command Center. So stay with us every step of the way as we build up strongly into the 19th of this particular, in fact, this is the 11th of July, these 19 polling stations where this rerun will take place. This is how voting has been in terms of the representation in the Ablekuma North constituency. Take a look at this. From the year 2000 up until 2020, the MPP has won this constituency comfortably, and the NDC doesn't come close. From 62.9% of the valid vote cast in the year 2000 up until 64.2% of the valid vote cast in 2020. Now, Musa Dankwa, who is the Executive Director of Global Info Analytics, indicates that they put Ablekuma North in the same bracket as the likes of Dom Kwabenya constituency, where they were expecting a historic flip because the NDC had never won that constituency. But then again, they projected that there was going to be a flip on this one. As to how things will play out on the 11th of July in these 19 polling stations, we will bring it to you here on your Election Command Center. But coming up next here on Ghana Tonight, we go straight into the matters of the 24-hour economy. That's coming up next, because earlier today there was a launch of the 24-hour economy adored by government. more jobs, increased productivity, and export of products from Ghana. It's a major clarion call, and some incentives as well announced for businesses that would hook on to this 24-hour economy policy by this administration. But the president, John Dramani Mahama, earlier today indicated that the 24-hour economy agenda is about unleashing productivity and expanding opportunities for growth, focusing on the quest to create more jobs, increase export, and reduce export, that's the imports as well. And the president, at the launch of the flagship program, affirmed the pivotal role that the Volta Lake, for instance, will play in all of this. Take a look.
We export raw materials and we import refined finished products. We ship cocoa, gold, timber, and oil abroad, only to repurchase them as chocolates, jewelry, furniture, and fuel at a far greater cost. This model does not serve our people. It has never served our people. It generates foreign jobs, it fuels foreign economies, and funds foreign healthcare and education systems. While our youth remain unemployed, our industries stagnate and our imports balloon.
Oh, that's the president, John Dramani Mahama, that this is a flagship program, and in fact, the focal point of the party's campaign going into election 2024, the 24-hour economy. And it was first marketed with the time slot, the 3 shifts. But as the policy evolved, we saw a lot more detail being put out by Gosi Tano, who's been charged with that responsibility since the inception of this administration, to figure out and also flesh out the details, the policy of this particular 24-hour economy. And members of parliament have been asking that this comes before parliament. We've got an indication that in the coming weeks that's going to happen. But this 24-hour economy, from what we got to know today, has 8 focal areas. And that's what's going to be on the screen right now. The focal points, the fulcrum around which this 24-hour economy is going to run. First is the Grow 24, focusing on transforming the agricultural sector through technology-driven, climate-smart practices that will allow for round-the-clock production and value addition, aim to ensure food security and reduce post-harvest losses. Also, Make 24. Under this pillar, from what we got to know earlier today, the NDC government will prioritize industrialization and manufacturing, promoting 24-hour operations in factories and so on, as we've seen in the processing zones. And this is key, and rightly so, because we've seen continuously over time questions have been raised about the manufacturing base of the economy. And the fact that for as long as this economy remains import-driven and the manufacturing sector not that strong, and the structure of the economy remaining as it is, we're going to have problems. So that's it. Then there's Bill 24, involves boosting construction and infrastructure development with support for continuous building schedules. Also, there's Show 24, centered on the creative arts, tourism, and entertainment sectors. The pillar will support 24-hour cultural and commercial activities, positioning Ghana as a hub for global tourism. There's Connect 24. This seeks to improve digital infrastructure, transport networks, and also energy systems to enable seamless connectivity for businesses and logistics as well. There's Fund 24, focusing on financial inclusion with policy support for banks, fintechs, and microfinance institutions to operate extended hours and facilitate access to credit. Now, when this matter came up for conversation, even prior to today, there was the talk about security. And so you had continuously the administration assure these banks and financial institutions that will take advantage of the 24-hour policy that there's going to be maximum protection for them if they're going to operate extended hours as well. The banking sector in itself is one that we're going to focus on in the coming days as to how they have developed, in fact, and come out of the impact of the financial sector cleanup. And then also the DDEP as well, that eroded a number of them, their capital, as we saw. And so as to how that will also improve on it, we'll get into it. There's Aspire 24, about human capital development, investing in skills, training, education, entrepreneurship, and especially for the youth. We've seen a number of interventions already, the coding and others that have been put in place, and then the NYP and other programs that they are also pursuing with apprenticeship and so on. Then there's GO. The final one is GO 24, emphasizing implementation and results. The GO 24 will serve as the operational drive to coordinate, monitor, and evaluate the performance of the entire policy framework. That is not the only one. And the likes of Dr. Theo Champon, who has been interrogating this particular document, the 24-hour policy document, is going to be joining us shortly on Zoom. And we here on Ghana Tonight have also been perusing this document to understand how the implementation, especially, which is key, is going to be like, because we've had fine print policies. The problem has always been the implementation. And this is what we got to find out in terms of the cost and other matters that have come up. When it comes to the specific incentives for businesses that would sign up to the 24-hour policy, this is the first one. No import duties for renewable energy infrastructure. If you're importing anything that has to be renewable energy, you will not pay import duties. You will not pay import duties on raw materials and industrial logistics, infrastructure, manufacturing equipment. There's targeted VAT exemptions as well. Then the caption there is targeted. So that explains the context that these VAT exemptions will be applying. And then there is the no corporate tax on strategic agri-production. That is specific on vegetables, cereals and grains, oil seeds, roots and tubers, and animal protein, sugars. And then also there's going to be regular trade expos. And that brings up a question as to how all of this feeds into specific venues for these trade expos. Because the last time we visited the Ghana Trade Fair, International Trade Fair Center, it was demolished, okay? And so questions have been raised as to where we can have all of these trade expos, which is part of the 24 economy policy and the incentive. There's long-term interest on loans through Development Bank. That's a major one as well, because you've had private sector complain about the cost of interest. That's the loans that they are taking from commercial banks, the loans and the interest being quite high than what they can accommodate. We have seen inflation go down, but it hasn't directly impacted on the interest on loans as well. And so we're seeing how the next policy rate announcement will be as to how the impact on interest rates as well. But this is the assurance for the businesses. We're going to hook onto the 24-hour policy. You're going to have long-term low interest on loans through Development Bank Ghana, facilitated by government. Then there's electricity tariffs to drop within the specific period of the day, between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. as well. So if you have businesses that are operating within this time bracket, electricity tariffs will drop. And so, yes, we're here on Ghana Tonight and fall within this bracket. We're going to have TV3, and that's Media General, enjoying some of this as well, as we're running an all throughout the hour clock of this of programming. Then there's state institutions to prioritize local goods. And this is the cost. The estimated cost is $4 billion. Fundamental question that you would have in your mind is, where is the money going to come from? Right? That answer, we got some pointers to. They say that in terms of the cost and where this is going to come from, they're looking at public-private partnerships, as well as the private sector coming in strongly, government as well providing that enabling environment, and then the breakdown that we got details of on what will be the way forward. And think about it. All of these exemptions that are going to be given will take revenue away from government. So how does government intend to plug the hole in this policy implementation? Dr. Theo Champon is a political risk analyst. He's an economist and a lecturer as well. He's joining us on Zoom right now. Dr. Theo Champon, good evening. Thank you for joining us on Ghana Tonight.
Good evening, Alfred. Good evening to our listeners.
I took time to run through the major pointers just to lay a good foundation for this conversation. I mean, you've seen this policy even prior to today. Does it excite you in any way?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think this is the major industrial policy tool that this administration intends to roll out. In terms of what they call sub-programs and sectors, it's not that dissimilar from what we have seen from other administrations. You can go all the way back to Kwame Nkrumah's first 5-year development plan, and then the second plan, and come through to a Champong, down to the last administration with the one district, one factory, and a few other concepts that they tried. But I think what is fundamentally different this time around for me is the fact that this has been well thought through, and it also connects the systems on an end-to-end basis. What I mean by that is that we're not just identifying sectors. So, for example, under MIG 24, and rightly you pointed out the focus on the 5 strategic manufacturing value chains. So agro-processing, textiles and garment, pharmaceuticals, machinery, and construction materials, right? They are not just identifying the sectors, but they are also connecting the factor inputs that you actually need to make these sectors work. So hence why things like the funding, things like the logistics, things like the industrial skill centers that allows you to have the agglomeration effect becomes quite important. Secondly, and I think this is also very important in terms of why this is a bit different, is the fact that you also have very clear monitoring and evaluation components to this. In fact, when you take the document and you go to the back, you've got very clear indicators on how or what success would look like at the end of the day should we push all this $4 billion USD into the 24-hour economy program. And then you also abstract from that, and you can see very clearly again that it's linked to productivity, importantly, improvement. And if you increase productivity, for sure, your GDP growth is going to pick up, and you're going to create jobs and overall improve the well-being of the people. So I personally think it's actually a very well thought through intervention package. I have always been in favor of the 24-hour economy concept, even before it became a big ticket thing on the political agenda. What is important now going forward is the issue of implementation, right? Where are we going to get that $4 billion to put on the table? There's mention of PPPs, there's mention of Development Bank Ghana, Venture Capital Trust Fund, some other funding models, including even crowdfunding. So basically, you and I and ordinary citizens can actually put money into supporting some of these projects and interventions. And that's the bit that it'll be interesting to see the exact operationalization of the concept. I think that there might be a secretariat, and there might be some sort of bigger body that would push through and ensure that there are synergies and the different ministries, the different government departments are talking across each other and ensure that we deliver at the end of the day.
It's a very important point you make about implementation, because as we've seen, it's not just about even the implementation, but the effective and efficient implementation of this document, is it not? Because we saw, for instance, Planting for Food and Jobs, it's cost us almost $1 billion within the period of implementation. But then the attendant effect or the objective we wanted to have with this Planting for Food and Jobs, we didn't realize it. We still had prices of the food items higher, even within the period when we were spending more money on this policy. So then the question then remains as to how we can track and ensure that the implementation is really on the right track and we are not just implementing to tick the boxes. How do you expect, in terms of the specific KPIs, to be spelled out and then also the checks in place to ensure that this is being done right?
Yeah, so I mean, like with the example of the planning for food and jobs that you mentioned, you see, the problem is not necessarily that the policy wasn't good, but if you're not really addressing the structural issues, what I mean by that is, if the fertilizer that you're actually using to put on your farm, right, is still coming in and is still being imported, your exchange rate is all over the place, and some of the other fundamentals, you're going to borrow money from the bank, right, and you have to pay 30% plus interest. There's nothing you can do within that context of that particular policy that would not mean that your prices at the end of the day is still not going to go up, right? So what I think is different this time, and what is very clear, is trying to connect the dots. So you have specific sector interventions, such as in the agro-processing, which is very similar to planting for food and jobs, right? But you have also interventions to make sure that those supply side constraints are actually being addressed. And then you also have a demand side response, right, to that. So, I mean, they talk about, for example, turning the whole water lake into they call it a Eden water bread basket. And they've actually put this into 16 clusters under this 24-hour economy concept, right? And this allows you to then have those economies of scale and agglomeration effects. And then when you again look at the indicators, like I said, what is going to be important at the end of the day? How do we measure success? For example, on the productivity front, you're looking at how your total factor productivity increases. You're looking at the number or the area of farm or food that you're cultivating. You're looking on the logistics side, how you're improving in your business or doing business indicators.
Right.
And you're looking at how ultimately this actually impacts collectively on growth.
But Doc, I just wanted to hold you on this because you asked a question earlier as to the $4 billion estimated cost of the implementation of this policy. Where is the money going to come from? There were some details given to an answer to that question. I'm going to put that on the screen right now. This is according to government where we're going to get the money from, and this is it. First off, they indicated that $300 million is going to be some sort of a seed money. That's 7% of the amount, seed money from government. Then there's going to be the public-private partnership agreements via the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund. And then also there is the $148 million of the 2025 National Assembly's Common Fund for the 24-hour markets as well allocated. And then you talked about the crowdfunding and others, meaning that we're all supposed to somehow chip in. That's the expectation. Does that answer the question for you?
Yes, precisely what I also talked about. And, the crowdfunding bit, the chipping in, you're not chipping in, it's not charity. Mm-hmm. You're actually going to get a return on your investment, right? Yeah. And you also have some bits coming, like you mentioned, from Development Bank Ghana, Venture Capital Trust Fund, and some other additional monies in there. I think what is also important going forward for me then is for us to break the whole program down. The document is quite big, but let's break it down into sort of an implementation roadmap, right? So what are we expecting to do or see within 2025, then 26, 27, 28? I am sure that the people working on this would have something already, if not prepared. But that also helps actually track the meeting of the targets and the indicators in that regard.
Certainly. And this is just the beginning of, as you have indicated, breaking down the document. We're going to have to also try and do our part in that regard, Doc, is it not? So we'll be having conversations in the coming days as we get into much more detail of this policy. Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate you as always. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Dr. Thuye Champong is a political risk analyst, is an economist, a lecturer, joining us here on Ghana Tonight. And clearly, we all admit that something must give. The structure of the economy must change. We cannot do the same things and expect different results. It's a 24-hour policy that answers to these questions. That's what we're going to be seeking answers to as we see it roll out in the coming days. After this quick break here on Ghana Tonight, question: prices of petroleum products have seen a reduction increase in specific instances. Petrol has seen a reduction in price, diesel an increase in price. What's going on? Stay with us. Duncan Amor joins us after this quick break.
Why are more and more professionals choosing Flamingo paint?
As an interior decorator, I aim for that beautiful, elegant look. Flamingo paint has great hiding ability to cover and transform old walls easily with just one coat.
Impressive.
For me, as a professional painter, I love Flamingo because with just small paints, I paint huge area, meaning more profit for me.
Great value for money.
As an architect, Flamingo paint with well researched solid composition guarantees durability for all my buildings.
Flamingo paint, superior hiding, superior coverage, superior durability. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
Aye, malaria's remedy is low nut. Therefore, we're gonna use
of the first pricing window in the month of July, we saw some movement at the pumps, and this is it. And, my colleague Nanaya visited some of the major oil marketing companies here in Accra. We've seen a reduction in the price of petrol and then an increase in the price of diesel. That's what Goil, for instance, there's been a drop in the price of petrol from the initial 12 cedis 38 pesos to 12 cedis 7 pesos. And then we've seen that same margin of reduction amongst the Total Energies we saw as well, almost the same margin of about 31 pesos reduction. And fuel, that's the petrol, saw a 31% reduction. But diesel saw a just about 31 to 32% increase in price at the pumps. So whereas petrol prices are going down 12 cedis 7 pesos per liter, diesel saw an increase by about the same margin of 31 pesos per liter. So what's happening? That's the fundamental question that we're asking right now. And Duncan Amor, man who understands how this industry works, is the executive secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC. He's joining us on Zoom right now. Duncan, I appreciate you, as always, for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. So we've seen this increase in the price of diesel by the same margin as the decrease in the price of petrol at the pumps. What's going on?
Okay, so some of the oil marketing companies did go down on prices in the second window June, as I mentioned, some had already declined to the 11 Ghana, 10 Ghana 99 region. For those OMCs, the net effect of having international market prices go up, IMP, petrol did about $46, diesel did about some $97 a metric, LPG saw $36 a metric. If you do these numbers, of course, together with the city's relative stability over the window, then naturally all of them could have gone up. But some were already selling petrol for a bit higher than the market itself dictated. So you would see that the cost of petrol that could have probably even gone up has declined. And then diesel that, of course, went up by as much as $97 a metric has gone up across board. This is what we call cross pricing. So one product is up, one product is down. But for a majority of the OMCs, as of close of day to day, they've not done anything to prices. And that fits into our earlier demand that this is one of the windows that we would be happy to see them stay prices or give us some stability in prices. Although, like I did mention, international benchmarks had gone up. The Platts pricing formula or trademark had gone up. Fortunately for us, a lot of them seem to be doing quite the inverse, which is to say that they are not increasing and decreasing any of the components. So maybe they will stay prices. But like I indicated earlier, Gold, Total are simply now coming towards where the market, the true numbers of the market really are. They should have gone down the second window June. They didn't. That was also because there were Lacan issues that was giving them some, cost, operational costs or overheads. We understood them, but it looks as though they have used this window to correct whatever pricing inefficiencies that existed within the setup.
I see, but then again, I'm just looking at the Bloomberg terminal right now, and it appears that the fears that we had about the possible impact that this Israel-Iran conflict would have on crude oil prices on the world market has been watered down, is it not? Because we're seeing the crude oil price actually trending downwards from the almost $80 a barrel that we saw a little over 2 weeks ago to now we're looking at some $67.5, $67.05 per barrel on at least the Bloomberg terminal. That's what I'm seeing right now. So that's some good development for the impact it would have on consumer pricing, is it not? Because clearly this crude oil price on the world market being one of the major components of the price determinants on the price build-up, at least on the price reflection at the pumps, it's a good development, isn't it?
So, Alfred, the Iran-Israel feud or tension indeed did have an impact on pricing. Like I mentioned earlier, crude prices did move from the $62 to $78, at some point $81 a barrel. Then the tensions de-escalated, and then the prices have begun cooling off. Now, as is with the crude market, anytime you see crude prices go up, the impact on the cost of finished products, which is petrol, diesel, and kerosene, is normally felt between 5 to 7 days. And so within the window, you saw a situation where crude prices had gone up, Platts prices took time to go up. And that is what I recall mentioning earlier. Petrol did see a surge in price of about $46 a metric ton. Diesel did go up by as much as $97 per ton.
And then again, you had LPG also go up by as much as some $36 a ton. So these were real impacts that the Iran-Israeli conflict brought to all of us. But like I indicated, because the conflict has de-escalated at present, there's a cooling effect. And then again, there's also the conversation by the OPEC Plus basket to ramp up numbers or increase their production volumes. Once supply is going above and beyond demand, then prices will definitely slump. And that is what we are seeing. So per this, you are likely to see the second window, July, which is about 2 weeks from now, rather bring prices a bit lower. I suspect that is the reason why the Ghana Revenue Authority is also contemplating now reintroducing the 1 Ghana cedi levy that the president had requested to be suspended earlier, so that they can monitor the Iran-Israeli conflict a bit and see how it pans out.
I can appreciate your thoughts on this and the projections as well, how the next pricing window will be like. Duncan Amoah is Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC. Thank you very much for joining us. On behalf of the rest of the team, we do appreciate your company. My name is Alfred. Ocansey. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.